Good morning, beloved saints and sons and daughters of the Almighty. How are you today, this morning? It is a great day to praise Yahweh. I have some great news, okay? For all those people who tithe out there, you're going to love this. It basically goes back to not adding to the scriptures and not taking away. And with tithing, we've been taught some wrong doctrine that is unscriptural, and I'm here to share that with you. And before I get into that, I just want to talk about only 20% of believers tithe. Most other believers only don't tithe at all, or only give 2%. So we're not really keeping up with what Yahweh has called us to do. We want to be better than the 20%. We want to be tithing. We are to be an example to others. Haggai 2:8 says, "The silver is mine, the gold is mine, saith Jehovah of hosts." He owns everything. He owns your car. You wouldn't have your job. You wouldn't have your bank account if it wasn't for him. You wouldn't have your life if it wasn't for him. So we owe him everything. Nothing is ours. In fact, everything is his. And so it's an honor and a privilege to give back to him. He's given us so much. So we should definitely want to give back to him. But here is the good news. Now, a lot of churches and Jewish tradition teach that there's a second tithe and a third tithe. So they're saying that you need to give 20%. It's a 7-year cycle. The first 2 years, you give 20%, 10% to the Levites, who would then give 10% to the priests. And today that would be giving to a missionary, an evangelist, a preacher, a teacher, somebody that's advancing the kingdom mightily. You would give, or you could buy Bibles and send them to China. This would be the same thing as advancing the kingdom. We don't want to deny the advancement of Yah's kingdom. This is super important. And then they would give another 10% they would save for the feast days. And on the 3rd and 6th year, there would be a third tithe, 30% of your income. And that third tithe would be given the widows, the orphans, the poor, the sick, the imprisoned, the foreigners. And I mean, that sounds great, but 30% is a lot, okay? Because if you think about it, the average person is taxed 28% plus sales tax is 7%. So they're giving 35% in taxes. They're tithing 30%, and the average housing expense is 30% of your income. So 95% of your income is gone. You haven't even got to the food, gas, and bills. So this is ridiculous. This is unscriptural. This is not what Yahweh wants. We don't tithe 30%, and we don't tithe for 7 years. The 6th year, after the 6th year, is the year of release. We're not allowed to plant anything in the field. We're not allowed to grow a vineyard. We're not allowed to do any of that. It's a 7th year rest, and Yah provides the food on the 7th year. So you don't even have to tithe on the 7th year. So all these people who've been tithing for all these years, you don't have to tithe on the 7th year, and you don't have to give 30%. Nowhere in the scriptures does it say there's a second tithe or a third tithe. Nowhere. This is added by the church and Jewish tradition. And also, nowhere in the scriptures does it say 20% or 30%. Nowhere. It only mentions 10%, a tithe. That word in Hebrew is always 10%. So it is only 10%, my friends. So I'm going to make it real simple for you. You make $1,000, take 10%, $100, and then the first and second year, you give half of that to whatever advances Yah's kingdom, a preacher, teacher, evangelist, a missionary, the church, whatever is advancing Yah's kingdom. And the other half goes to saving for the feast days so you can celebrate with your family, with your friends, with the church, and use that for food for the celebration. Okay? Now, on the 3rd and 6th year, this is where you would take the tithe. And I'm going to give you all the scripture verses to back all this up. and split it 3 ways. Okay, it's 10% split 3 ways. So you make $1,000 in 1 month. Most people make more than that, but I'm just making it simple. You take $100 and you split it 3 ways. You give 1/3 of the 10% to the widows, the orphans, the poor, the sick, the in prison, and you also give to the church or whatever advances God's kingdom, and then you save the other part for you to celebrate for the feast days. And it says food in the scripture, but so that's what you want to spend it on. But some people spend it for camping sites and whatnot. But that's up to you and God. That's between you and Yahweh. Okay, so here are the scripture verses to back